today we are going to discuss the concept design thinking, right? And there's another concept which I will do another recording and post. It's on blockchain technology. So today we'll be discussing on design thinking. So what do you think is a design thinking? Any idea on design thinking? So there are a lot of definitions, a lot of statements regarding this design thinking. So I have included some definitions from the famous people. So first one is design thinking is an iterative process in which we seek to understand the user, challenge assumptions, and redefine problems in an attempt to identify alternative strategies and solutions that might not be instantly apparent with our initial level of understanding. The second one is design thinking is both an ideology and a process that seeks to solve complex problems in a user-centric way. It focuses on achieving practical and feasible results and the solutions that are desirable to the user. Yes. So it's basically a process, right, we use in coming up with a product or a solution. There, we have to first understand the user, right? We have to empathize the user. And we need to understand what they actually want and what they are going through. And then we do the redefining and the ideas, the strategies, and then we'll go on with the development of that particular product or solution or whatever, right? So that is basically the design thinking. So as said here, it's both an ideology as well as a process. So using this design thinking, we can solve more complex problems as well, right? That should be in a user-centric way, not like the usual process. Here we put the users as the first priority. Okay, so it's something more than a process, and it opens up a new way to think, and with that, we'll have a lot of methods. Hands-on methods too, which will help us to apply this particular new mindset, new ways, right? So that is what design thinking. If you don't get the concept now, you will get to know about it while we go through all the slides. Okay. So before getting into the process of design thinking, we have to first understand what is empathizing and how we can do that. Okay, so here we have something related to empathizing. So how to empathize? There are three methods I have mentioned here. So these are the most important things in empathizing. So first one is observe, second one is engage, third one is link. Observe, view the users and their behaviors in the context of their life. So here, usually what we do, usually if we are asked to observe, right? We observe the things in a controlled environment, right? So what will happen is we can really get to know the behavior, or we can really absorb their actual way of response, right? So in a controlled environment, then the people get to know that they are being observed. Then what will happen? They won't, they won't, they won't react in their original way. Right? There will be a small difference, of course, with the human nature. When we know that we are being observed, we will act in a different way, knowingly or unknowingly. So in that case, we can't get to know the real behavior of the user, their real needs and stuff. So this is a bad practice to observe in a controlled environment, right? It should be an open environment. You should observe them without making them aware that they are being observed, right? And then engaging, it's interaction. It's an interactive process, right? So interacting means you talk with that particular user, the person. And of course, you can interview them, and through your questions, you are trying to understand what they are going through, their lives, their values, attitudes, and stuff. What is actually happening with them, right? By interviewing them, you can understand those very easily, right? And then immerse. Immerse is where you get into their shoes, right? So here you are going to experience the life of the user by being or by acting in their place. We are going to put your feet into their shoes. We are going to be at them, and we are going to experience what they are going through, right? So that is immerse. So empathizing is really important because for designing something, you must know your user, right? You must understand your user. You must understand their needs, their expectations and stuff. So this empathizing part is really important. And um, you have to understand the particular scenario correctly. And please note that you can't apply all these three methods in a particular scenario, right? In some scenarios, you can apply all these things, but in some scenarios, you cannot apply all these three methods, right? So you have to understand the scenario very carefully, and then you have to choose the particular method that you are going to apply to that scenario, and then you have to go on with that. For example, um, yeah. So for example, if we take we are analyzing uh, a group of corona patients. So in that case, can you use this immerse method? Can you use this immerse method? No, right? Because yeah, you can't get into their shoes. You can't be a corona patient of your analysis and do this process. So in those cases, there are several scenarios like that. So in those cases, it is really important to understand the scenario. Then you have to choose the method of empathization and then go on with that, right? Um, so five, yeah, before that, there's another point. People usually confuse that design thinking is something that is only for the designer. Is that the case? Hmm? No, right? This is not something that is related to only designers. It is a particular way of coming up with innovative ideas, right? So to come up with those innovative ideas, you have to, of course, start thinking from the designer's mindset, but you have to approach the problem from the user's perspective, right? So this is not just limited to the designers. Now you can see design thinking is being adapted in various fields such as engineering, agriculture, medical fields, and so on, right? So this is not just something related to design. So of course you have to have the mindset of a designer, but you have to approach the problem from user side, right? So putting users in the first phase is the important point here. Okay, and yeah, so this concept actually uh, tries to understand the people for whom you are going to design a product or a software or something. So for whom you are going to design that one, right? So this is something to understand those people, and also with this design thinking, our ability to question will be increased, right? So we are not going to go on with the previous assumptions, the typical concepts that we have been learning. So here we will be questioning, right? We'll be questioning the existing assumptions and the implications that we gain from those assumptions, right? And it also helps us to observe that we've already discussed and to develop empathy with the target users, right? So this is extremely useful to solve very complex problems as well, right? Okay, so that is a basic introduction to design thinking. Right? So now we'll see the phases of design thinking framework. So there are 5 phases. You can see them here. Empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. We are going to see each of them separately, and we are going to discuss on them. So before that, here I have mentioned that iterative and non-linear process. What is meant by that? Why do we say it's an iterative and non-linear process? Any idea? So why do we call it an iterative and non-linear process? This is not something that goes on in a linear manner. I mean, this is not something that goes on step by step. Of course, it goes on step by step, but again, we can return to the previous step, right? From the prototyping, we can return to the empathizing, we can return to defining. From testing, we can define, we can come again to define, right? We can come to the idea step. Likewise, we can carry out these stages parallelly. We can carry out these stages step by step. Even we can repeat them. We can start from the beginning. Likewise, this is not something linear, right? You can go back. You can start from the beginning. You can start in the middle. Likewise, you can go through all these phases. Whenever you want, right? So that's why it's called an iterative and non-linear process. Steps are being iterated, and it doesn't follow a linear way of approach, right? Okay, we'll move on to the empathize. So empathize, I have already discussed about it in the previous slide. So anyhow, so this is just a phase to understand the user, right? So you actually try to uh, engage and understand the people for whom you are going to design the product. Okay, so this is the starting point of design thinking. You observe and you engage with the people to find them from both the psychological and emotional level. Okay, so you are not going to think about the previous assumptions and stuff. You are going to just get the real insight from the user about the user. Right? So for that, there are a lot of tools for empathization. So here I have mentioned some of those tools. First one, ask what, how, and why. Then empathy map, conduct interviews, use video-based studies, engage with extreme users, store, share, and capture journey maps. So I will explain these a bit, the important ones. I'll explain the important ones only. So first one is see about that. It's ask what, how, and why. Okay. So this tool implies like what in this case implies you have to Write what you observe the user is doing. What are the things you observe from the user without any assumptions, right? You don't make any assumptions here. You just observe them and write down those stuff. And then you have this how. So how part is what the user is doing. We are trying to understand what the user is doing, whether he's behaving in a positive way or whether he's behaving in a negative way, and the effort that person is taking. So likewise, that is said by the how. And in the why question, we need to interpret. Here is the part where actually we need to interpret what they do, right? With all the observations we have had, we are going to interpret their actions. Okay, so that is the first tool. Then the second tool is empathy map, that match. Okay, then conducting interviews. Conducting interviews is the easiest thing, right? So you have had gone through several interviews and you might have idea on it. So in interviews, we can just prepare the questions beforehand and we can just ask the users those questions, mostly the open-ended questions. And we have to consider the type of the question before asking them. So we have to consider the type of question, we have to ask the question and we have to find the answers from there. Right? So through interviewing, it is said that we can clearly understand the user with our questions, right? So this is something related to this story share and capture as well. So we'll discuss that. So while you are asking questions, you can ask questions related to their background, their life, their current issues. Likewise, you can ask questions and you can understand their real problem, their background, their story. Sometimes you might ask them to share their story. So, of course, it's an open-ended question. Then they'll start to explain all their stories. So you have to anyhow listen to that. You have to carefully listen to that so that you can uh, get to know some important points from that and not that there's no limit because it's an open-ended question. Answer will be open, right? So in a way, it might be helpful to you to understand them deeply because they'll be telling everything about them in the story, right? So it will be really helpful to you to understand them. And that's the story sharing thing. So this can come in the interviews as well, or else this can be taken as a separate tool also, right? So this is something a really good way to empathize with the user. And then we have something called engage with extreme users. So who do you think is an extreme user? Who are the users do we call as the extreme users? Any idea? So extreme users are the people who are deeply engaged with the uh, process. They will be really experienced, right? Those users will be really experienced and deeply engaged with the process. So those people are called the extreme users. So those extreme users will do the things quickly. They will do the task quickly without just imagining what to do, when to do. Likewise, they will just immediately start the process and go on with the process. So in that case, extreme users, inclusion of extreme users is really something important, right? So it's better to include two or more extreme users in your empathizing state so that you can get a lot of important, rare, and good points from them, right? So that is regarding the extreme. So that's about extreme users. It is always better to include the extreme users in your empathize state, right? Uh, then we move on to how to interview for empathy. So this is something that I discussed in our life. So this is something I discussed before. So you have to ask why, encourage their tone, look for inconsistencies, pay attention to nonverbal cues, don't be afraid of silence, ask questions neutrally without suggesting answers. Okay, so this is something we discussed, right? You ask why questions. Why did you do this? Why are you expecting this? Why are you going on with this design? Likewise, you have to ask questions. You have to encourage them to provide their stories, their background stories. The important thing is you have to ask questions neutrally without suggesting the answer. So, uh, your question should not suggest an answer, right? It should be something unbiased, and answers should not be suggested from the question itself, right? So that is about empathizing. So after finishing the empathize phase, after understanding the user, from that phase, we will be moving on to the define phase where we define a clear problem statement, right? Define a clear problem statement with what you learned in the empathize phase. So here you have to synthesize your observation, right? You have to synthesize the observations you gained in the previous phase, and you have to define the problem statements that are more meaningful and actionable, right? So when defining a problem statement, we must focus on the user's needs rather than the needs of the business. So a good problem statement must be human centered, right? You always put the people in the first priority rather than the business. Okay. So from your observations in the empathize phase, you will try to come up with what kind of difficulties and barriers uh, your users are coming up against, and what partners you observe, and what are the uh, uh, complex and highly important problems that are faced by your user, and which are the important ones that you need to the business need to solve, right? So those kind of things happen in this design phase. So here I have mentioned two main design tools. There are a lot, but these two are usually used in the industry these days. So first one is point of view, and the second one is how might we, right? So point of view is something where we consider three kind of what do you call three kind of things. Okay, so here we have to think about the user, then their need, then insight. Okay, so here in the point of view, first user will be taken. So we can create a template here. Hmm, So here we can create a template. So first you have to write the user name, right? The user needs a way to here you have to mention their need, they want to do something, so that need should be given here. Then because here you have to mention the insight. What do they want to achieve from here? What are the things they want to establish with this particular action or with this particular effort, right? So this kind of a template can be created for this point of view tool. In this way, you can define a problem statement. You are trying to just define a problem statement here, right? So with this point of view, clearly you can define the problem statement, right? Then we have how might we tool. So this how might we tool is a short question type of thing. So it actually helps you to brainstorm. You can start with a point of view and come to this how might we tool, right? You can ask the question that start with how might we phrase, and with that you will be defining the problem statement more, right? So you can find research about this and find several examples in the internet. So that's about the define phase. Then once the define phase is completed, then you have to go into the ideate phase. So what it is? Once we define the problem, first we understand the user, empathize the user, then we come up with the problem definition. So after defining the problem into words, now you can start to come up with the solutions and ideas, right? So that is where we are now. It is the ideate phase. Okay. So with a great understanding or with a solid understanding of your users and a clear problem statement in your mind, then you can start working on the potential solutions, right? You have to think outside the box, not in a general way. Design thinking is not something we do in a general way. It's something where we think out of the box, right? Where we try to come up with the solutions that people have never thought of. Okay, so you have to generate creative and very innovative ideas here, right? You have to come up with a great pool of ideas which will lead you to the next levels of this next phases of this design thinking process, right? So generate radical design alternatives, explore a wide solution space. That is have things we discussed so far. So yeah, as I said here, you will be generating a lot of innovative ideas, and at the end of the ideation phase, you need to narrow down your solution space, and you have to select the few ideas which are really what do you call really creative, and which do you think can be applied in that particular scenario, and then you have to move forward, right? So here also there are several tools for this ideation phase. So the two important ones are the brainstorming and mind mapping. So brainstorming and mind mapping, both these tools, I think you must have heard about these in the previous years of study. You might have, even you might have done this for some other purposes. So here, basically brainstorming is a discussion, a group discussion where the group members try to come up with the solutions for some problem. So they discuss to come up with some creative ideas. That is brainstorming. Mind mapping is something we do to break down the particular concept into several simple concepts in order to make it easy to understand, right? So it's a famous tool. There are several online tools for this mind mapping. You might have used them. Even you can just use a pen or a pencil with a paper and you can start mind mapping. We start mind mapping even from our childhood, right? While in the school days, you might have done this mind mapping without knowing that is a mind mapping, right? When we are studying for a particular subject, we can do the mind mapping, right? It is easy. When you are preparing for the exam, mind mapping is really easy. Like for this kind of a small chapters, you can just put a mind map in a single paper. So by seeing that single paper, you'll understand the whole concept, right? It will also give you a confidence that, okay, this is a small subject. I have the whole idea on it, right? Okay, coming back to the topic. So mind mapping is another tool for this ideation. So with the mind mapping, you divide the main point into several subpoints so that it will be easier for you to understand and move on with the next phase, right? Okay. So once you are done with the ideation phase, then you have to move to the prototyping phase. So prototyping phase is where all your ideas, all those mind related things come into the tangible format, right? So a prototype is basically a scaled down version of the product which incorporates potential solutions identified in the previous stages. Yes. So prototype is not the final product. It is something it's a narrowed down version of the product. It actually is used to it is used to actually used for testing, right? For the testing purposes, we do prototyping. So we'll discuss that in the next phase. So this prototype, through this prototype stage, the proposed solutions, the ideas that you came up in the previous phase may be accepted, may be rejected, may be modified or redesigned, depending on the depending on how they appear in the prototyping form, right? So it is an inexpensive and low resolution form to learn quick and explore the possibilities. So it is a better way to make interactions and dive deeper into empathy. So this means when you create a prototype, and prototype can be a sketch, it can be a low fidelity prototype, it can be a high fidelity prototype, whatever it is. Even a sketch you did using your pen and pencil can be considered as a prototype, right? So starting from that sketch to the high fidelity prototype, when you're creating them, you can try them with your users, right? So you give them to your users and you have to explain them that this is not a final product, and then you have to give them the prototype and ask them to use it and ask their feedback on that particular prototype. We have to ask them, okay, whether this satisfies your expectation, whether this includes all the functionalities you expected, right? Likewise, we'll ask them and we will empathize with them more, right? So, since in all the cases this empathizing comes, likewise, these cases are interconnected. So, you have to understand that as well, okay? So, yeah, so here we are coming up with a prototype and we will give it to the user and there comes the user testing, okay? So prototyping and testing, both these phases actually get together and you give the prototype, as I said earlier, you give the prototype to the user, explaining them that this is not the final product and you ask them to test it to find whether they are satisfied with it, okay? So you test the prototype to make sure that all the user expectations are met and all the functionalities expected are included, right? So here I have given a point, not really the last step. Why is that? So I have already said you that this design thinking process is not a linear one, right? Sometimes this testing might lead you to the previous phase of the design thinking again. It might lead you to the very first phase, or it might lead you to the ideation. It might lead you to any other stages in the design thinking, and maybe you have to redefine the problem statement, or maybe you have to include something that you have never thought earlier, right? So that's why it is said that it's not really the last step of design thinking work. Okay, so yes, so those are the 5 phases of design thinking. And you have to keep in mind that the design thinking framework is not a linear one, it's an unlinear and iterative process. It's a very uh, it's a very new way in finding solutions to the problem where you challenge the existing assumptions and you start questioning the existing assumptions to find the creative and innovative solutions. Okay, so, so this is the last concept. So last part I want to discuss regarding the design thinking. So why design thinking? What's the purpose of using this design thinking framework? Why do we use design thinking? Okay, the points are mentioned here anyway. So first one is it fosters creativity and innovation. Of course, that's what we have been discussing so far, right? So this design thinking actually makes us think out of the box, right? Usually, we'll be bounded to the existing knowledge that we already gained, or we'll just consider the assumptions uh, that were made earlier and the things that were told for us uh, from our parents or any other senior. So likewise, we'll be bounded to the existing knowledge, right? But here, with the design thinking, we'll be thinking more to come up with the new creative and innovative solutions. So we'll come up with the way that do not abide by the most common problem solving method. Okay, so that's what meant by the first point. The second point is it is a healthy middle ground of problem solving. Yes. Why do we say so? What do we mean by that? What do we mean by a middle ground of problem solving? Yeah. It is not steeped wholly into the intuition, right? This is a mixture of this design thinking is a mixture of science as well as the emotions, intuitions, and so on. Okay, you analyze the stuff as well as with your intuition also you are making some decisions. So it's a mixture of mm, mixture of the types of problem solving. That's why we call it as a middle ground of problem solving. Then the third purpose is design thinking puts human first. Yeah, this is another reason for why we prefer design thinking, right? So by focusing on empathy, right, by empathizing with the users, it encourages us, the businesses or the people who design the solution, it encourages them to consider the people who are going to use the products or the services. Okay, so we have discussed this in the earlier slides as well. So here in design thinking, the needs of the users are put first in the first place than the needs of the business. Okay, so higher priority is given to the needs of the user. So when we think from the side of user, this is something that they prefer, right? With this, with putting them in the first place, they will, they will get more useful products and it will improve their lives. By thinking it in the side of, on the side of the businesses, so by putting the people first, we make them more satisfied. Okay, so the customers will be more happy and satisfied. So the bottom line of the business will be a healthier one. Okay, so it actually benefits to both the users as well as the businesses or the people who design the solutions. Okay, that's another thing. So the last one is it challenges assumptions. Yeah, that's what we discussed. So by thinking out of the box, we actually try to falsify the existing assumptions, right? We are trying to prove that the assumptions made earlier are not valid, and we are trying to prove why they are not valid. So these are the main reasons for adapting design thinking. There are a lot of benefits from design thinking, but these are the main points that we consider in adapting to design thinking. So you must understand one thing. This is design thinking is of course a science. It's of course an art. It's an ideology, right? It's everything. It combines everything. Okay? It combines the investigations and it also uh, it combines the investigations with the analysis, right? With the scientific method. So it's both the science as well as an art. Uh, so those are the things that I wanted to discuss about the design thinking. So this is the famous quote on design thinking.